The Santa Claus, starring Tim Allen, is one of my all-time favorite Christmas movies. I remember watching this movie back when I was a kid, when I was like 5 years old. I loved it then, and I still like it now. Tim Allen as Scott Calvin, he is hysterical. I like how he just plays this ordinary guy who is forced to take on the mantle of Santa Claus after he scares the real Santa Claus and he comes sliding down his roof and is ultimately evaporates. I think that the whole setup to this movie is hilarious. It's just hilarious how a simple thing as saying, yo, and then you scare a guy. It's funny stuff. And Tim Allen, he just sells everything just fantastic. Man is hysterical. He makes almost any line just hilarious. You're either gonna get a chuckle out of him, or you're gonna get an all-out laugh out of him. That's how talented, to me, Tim Allen is. And in the Santa Claus, you always have a smile on your face whenever that man opens his mouth. But other than that, he also balances, the more dramatic moments fairly well. I like the bond that develops with his son Charlie. I like how they're kind of sort of distant from one another, but as the movie progresses, their bond really strengthens, and there's a genuine love starts to form between Charlie and Scott, mainly because Charlie believes so much in his father, even though Scott is trying hard, desperately not to accept that responsibility, because he knows that if he respects the responsibility, then he's probably going to be committed for insanity, and he's never going to see his son again. On the same token, you got Scott's ex-wife and her psychiatrist boyfriend, who think that Scott is psychologically screwing up Charlie and giving Charlie these, and has delusions of grandeur, and that's reflecting on the way Charlie is acting and the things that he says, and how nobody believes him that his father's Santa Claus, and that they spend Christmas Eve at the North Pole. So I like that family drama that goes on. I like the family drama that goes on too, and I like how that's interwoven, pretty nicely into the overall main story. I think they handle it really well. I also like the performances as well. It's not over. It's done in a light comedic way, but you have just enough drama to get the feels. Especially this scene where the judge makes a ruling that Scott can no longer have any visitations to his son Charlie until he, stop these delusions of grandeur. It's a very emotional scene, and you really see the heartbreak. And Tim Allen sells that heartbreak really, really well. So yeah, I like it a lot. It's good stuff. This movie handles its story fairly well, but it also handles its comedic bits very, very well. There's the scene where he burns the turkey, which is hilarious. There's the scene where he initially puts on the Santa Claus outfit and he's traveling from house to house, not knowing what the hell he's doing, which is funny too. The stuff when they first go to the North Pole, I like the overall look of the North Pole. The North Pole looks pretty cool, especially when you see the workshop. I like how all the elves have their own distinct look to them. The character of Bernard, who's like the head elf, he's hysterical, and I like the scenes between him and Scott. And I like how Bernard talks to Scott like he is a businessman, especially when he's reading the Santa Claus card contract and telling Scott, you're the new Santa Claus. And I like how he explains it, you're Santa. It's not Santa Claus the person, Santa Claus the clause, as in the last line of the contract. I think that stuff is hilarious. And I also like the little friendship he has with Charlie as well. This movie teases that the North Pole could be a more greater world. There's this one scene where Scott is like in his little room, and in the background you see like the open world of the North Pole. Very, very a small glimpse of it, but you see how it's a very lively world, and I would have liked to spend a little bit more time at the North Pole, kind of exploring the culture a little bit. I think that would have been really cool to see. The movie teases you a little bit, but they don't go all the way there, which is kind of a bummer looking back at it now, not knowing that there was going to be any sequels. I would have spent a little bit more time in the North Pole just to get a good feel of the world, personally. Another thing this movie had teased you with, but didn't really fully go on with, is that there's one scene in the movie where Neil gives Scott his card, because Neil's a psychiatrist. He gives Scott his card, tells him to call him so he can psychologize with him a little bit. And we didn't get that scene also. I would have liked to have seen that scene, because I think Tim Allen and Reinhold there was an untapped, comedic vibe going on between those two, and those two, to me, they didn't really have a proper resolution to their little, I don't want to say conflict, a kind of sort of conflict, because Tim, he makes fun of Neil a lot, so I'd like to have that get a more proper payoff, and not the kind of lame payoff it kind of gets, where Neil just looks at Scott and is like, Santa? I would have liked to see more. Personally, I would like to see more of that stuff. But again, but you still got those other scenes that make up for it. You got the scene where Scott gets the list and he's like, yo, what am I gonna do with all these packages? You got this scene where he's watching Charlie do a soccer game, and you have kids just lining up thinking he's Santa, telling him what they want for Christmas, which is hysterical. You got the scenes where he's starting to get fat, starting to grow out his facial hair, his regular hair starts to grow out, all starts to turn white. You got the scene when he's in like an office meeting, and he's wearing nothing but sweat clothes, and then he orders this ridiculous lunch with ice cream and milk and cookies, and everyone is just looking at him like he's gone nuts. And I like how he interrupts the guy who wants to put Santa in a total tank, but Scott's like, no, can't the elves have like rosy cheeks, and why is Santa in a military tank? This shit's hysterical. I also love the scene where when Scott Calvin's in that full Santa regalia, finally accepts the fact that he is Santa with a touching scene with Charlie, which is a really nice scene. I like it. It may be like a little cheese. It may borderline on the cheese factor a little bit with that scene, like cliches. But when you watch it, it's actually pretty cool. It's a nice little scene when Charlie gives Scott a snow globe that Bernard gave him in the North Pole, and Scott sees the snow globe come to life, and that's when he starts to believe and accept that he's Santa. It's a nice little scene. But I also like this little vignette scene where we see Charlie and Scott devise this new Santa suit. You got ZZ Top playing in the background as the cops are looking for Scott Calvin, who supposedly kidnapped his son, according to his ex-wife. And you see like the police interrogating these different Santas until they eventually get the real Scott, and you get this really funny interrogation scene where the cop's like, name, and Scott's like, Santa Claus, and starts naming different names to his own funny stuff. You also get the elves with attitude, who cause chaos in the police department as they're trying to save Scott from custody. So yeah, like this movie, the Santa Claus is just a very, very funny movie. It's a very heartwarming movie. It's an innocent movie, perfect movie to watch around the Christmas time, around the Christmas holidays, and just to get a good, just to get that good fuzzy sense of nostalgia. Definitely give this movie a watch, because what is it, over 20 years later, it's still a fun watch, man. I still like this movie a hell of a lot. Tim Allen's still one of my favorite comedians working today, alive today. So, yeah, as you can tell, I love the Santa Claus, which is why I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. This is a great Christmas movie. It's a good Tim Allen movie. Let me know if you like it down in the comment section below. Like this video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.